I should have left the library when the first flicker of unease hit me. It was finals week, and I've been holed up in one of those claustrophobic study cubicles on the third floor since sunset, the kind with high dividers that make you feel both sheltered and trapped. My laptop hummed, my notes were a mess, and the overhead lights buzzed just loud enough to notice during pauses in my typing. That's when I heard it, a soft tap 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 from the other side of the divider. Not random, not the AC, mimicking my keystrokes like someone was playing a lagging echo of my own fingers. I froze mid-sentence, holding my breath. The tapping stopped. I told myself it was just the building settling or maybe some asshole messing with me. But when I hesitantly started typing again, the taps came back, exactly a half second behind each keystroke. My skin prickled. I wasn't alone. I whipped around in my chair, expecting to see some sleep-deprived student leaning over the divider with a smirk. Nothing. The aisle between cubicles was empty, the fluorescent glare making the shadows too sharp for hiding. I stood up so fast my knee slammed the desk, but I barely felt it. Peered over the divider. The next cubicle was vacant. Chair pushed in, no bag, no half-finished coffee. Just a cold, untouched desk. That's when the dread really set in. Because if no one was there, what the hell had been tapping back at me? I grabbed my phone, thumb hovering over campus security's number, but hesitated. What would I even say? I think a ghost is plagiarizing my essay? I forced myself to sit back down, gripping the edge of the desk until my knuckles ached. The tapping didn't return, but the silence was worse, thick like the air before a storm. I tried to focus on my work, but every rustle of paper, every creak of the chair made my pulse spike. After an hour of jumping at nothing, I packed up and bolted for the security desk downstairs. The guard, an older guy with bored eyes, barely looked up when I stammered out my story. He sighed like he'd heard it all before, but humored me, rewinding the third-floor camera feed. My stomach dropped when he pointed at the timestamp. "See for yourself," he said. The screen showed me, just me, sitting alone in a sea of empty cubicles for 6 straight hours. No movement, no shadows, no one else on the entire floor. The walk back to my dorm was a blur. I kept replaying it. The taps had been too precise, too intentional. I'd even counted once. 3 keystrokes, 3 taps. Always matching, always listening. Back in my room, I shoved a chair under the doorknob and pulled my blankets over my head like a kid, but sleep didn't come. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that grainy footage of myself, utterly alone in the library. That's when the worst thought hit me. If the camera didn't pick anything up, how could I prove it wasn't just in my head? The doubt gnawed at me worse than the fear. I checked my phone's recording app on a whim, half hoping I'd absent-mindedly caught the sound. Nothing but the hum of the library and my own frantic breathing. The next morning, I almost convinced myself I'd imagined it. Sleep deprivation, stress, whatever. But then I opened my laptop to finish my paper and froze. The document was different. Not massively, just small things. A sentence reworded. A missing paragraph. My notes had a few lines added in a font I didn't recognize, like someone had casually edited my work while I wasn't looking. My hands shook so bad I had to steady them on the desk. I scrolled through the version history, but there were no extra saves, no outside logins. Just me, alone with a document that wasn't quite mine anymore. I deleted the changes, but the cursor kept flickering like something was still there, watching. I slammed the laptop shut, that I couldn't stay in my dorm after that. I wandered campus like a ghost myself, jumping at every distant laugh or shuffling footstep. By afternoon, I was so exhausted I dragged myself back to the library, not to study, but to prove I could, to prove it was over. The third floor was deserted again, same as always. I stood in the aisle, staring at the cubicle where it had happened. Then, on impulse, I sat in the next one over, the empty one. The second I touched the keyboard, my blood turned to ice. The desk was warm. Not someone was here 5 minutes ago warm. Body heat warm. Like someone had been sitting there, fingers resting on the keys, waiting. I bolted so fast I left my bag behind, but I didn't go back for my bag until the next day, and only because my wallet and keys were in it. The library felt different in daylight, less ominous, but still wrong, like a stage set pretending to be normal. My cubicle was untouched, my bag exactly where I'd left it. Relief flooded me until I unzipped it. My notebook was open to a page I didn't recognize, filled with tight, jagged handwriting that wasn't mine. Just one phrase, over and over. "You should have looked behind you." The words were pressed so hard into the paper, they'd torn through in places. I slammed the notebook shut, but not fast enough to miss the faint, greasy smudges on the pages. Fingerprints, but too large to be mine. That night, I woke up to my laptop glowing in the dark. I never left it open. The screen showed a blank document except for a single line of text, typed slowly as I watched. "I'm still here." My breath came in shallow gasps as I reached to shut it, then froze. From a hallway came a sound I knew too well. Tap, tap, tap. Not on a keyboard this time. On my door. 3 slow, deliberate knocks, spaced exactly like the echoes in the library. I didn't move, didn't breathe. The knocking stopped, and then, so quiet I almost missed it, a rasping whisper from the other side of the door. "You're not typing anymore." I didn't sleep again after that. I spent the rest of the night huddled in the corner of my room, staring at the door, waiting for the knob to turn. When the sun finally rose, I called campus security, babbling about harassment, noises, anything to make them check the dorm cameras. They humored me again. The footage showed nothing. No one at my door. No whispers. Just me, sitting alone in the hallway at 3 a.m., pressing my ear to my own door like I was listening for something. But here's what they didn't notice. In the video, my lips were moving. Not talking, mimicking, like something was whispering through me. I didn't point it out. I just deleted the security app from my phone and threw my laptop in the dumpster behind the dining hall. A week passed. Nothing happened. No taps, no notes, no warm desks. I started to think it was over until I passed the library and saw him. A guy sitting in my cubicle, head down, typing furiously. I knew his face. He'd been in my philosophy class last semester. I almost walked away, but then I saw it. His fingers freezing mid-sentence, his head tilting like he just heard something, and then, clear as day, 3 slow taps from the empty cubicle beside him. He turned to look. I didn't wait to see his reaction. I ran. I don't know if he heard the whispers too. I don't know if he's still typing. All I know is, sometimes at night, I catch myself listening for the sound of my own keystrokes, and waiting for the echo that I transferred schools 2 months later. Couldn't risk it following me, if it was even a me thing and not just a that place thing. The weirdest part? When I emptied my dorm, I found a sticky note stuck to the back of my desk drawer. It wasn't there before. It wasn't my handwriting. Just 2 words, "Keep typing." I burned it in the parking lot. The paper curled black, but the words stayed visible until the last second, like they'd been etched into the ash that I still can't use a keyboard without flinching. Coffee shops, work, even my damn phone. If I type too long, I start listening for it. That lag, that match. And sometimes, when I'm alone and the room's too quiet, I swear I hear it. Not from behind me, not from the other side of the screen, from inside the keys. Like whatever was in that library didn't just follow the sound. Like it's been here all along, waiting for me to press the right combination of letters to let it out. So yeah, I write everything in pen now, and I never, ever look behind me. My name's Jake, and this happened last fall during my sophomore year at Penn State. Back then, I was your typical broke college kid, living in a crappy dorm, surviving on instant ramen, and always down for a party. That Saturday, my roommate dragged me to a house off campus. One of those places where the music shakes the walls and strangers keep handing you warm beers. I didn't know most people there, but that didn't matter. The energy was wild, the kind of night where you laugh too loud and forget about exams for a few hours. I remember pushing through the crowd, sweat sticking my shirt to my back when I realized I really had to pee. The downstairs bathroom had a line, so I headed upstairs, figuring I'd have better luck. The hallway was dim, the noise muffled behind me, and that's when I noticed the door at the end, slightly ajar, flickering light seeping through the crack that I knocked, but no answer. Assuming it was another bathroom, I pushed the door open and froze. The room was empty, no furniture, no people. Just a circle of fat, dripping candles on the floor, their flames casting jagged shadows up the walls. But what made my stomach drop were the photos. Dozens of them, scattered across the floor like someone had tossed them in a hurry. At first, I thought they were just random party pics, but when I crouched down, my pulse spiked. Every single one showed people sleeping, unposed, vulnerable, shot from weird angles like the photographer had been inside their rooms. My hands shook as I picked one up. A girl curled under a blanket, her dorm number visible on the door. Another showed a guy passed out on a couch, a half-empty beer beside him. Then I saw mine. The photo of me was crisp, unnervingly clear, taken through my dorm window at night. I was asleep on my side, one arm dangling off the bed, my stupid Star Wars poster visible on the wall behind me. My breath came in short, sharp gasps. Who the hell took this? The angle was impossible unless someone had been standing on the fire escape or hovering outside my third-floor window. My skin prickled like I was being watched right then, and I spun around, just in time to hear the door click shut behind me. I lunged for it, but the knob didn't budge. Locked. The air suddenly felt thicker, the candle smoke stinging my eyes as I hammered on the door. "Hey, someone open up." My voice sounded shrill, drowned out by the bass thumping below. No one came. That's when I noticed the writing. Scratched into the wall beside the door, barely visible in the flickering light, were rows of tiny numbers. Dorm room numbers, I realized with a jolt. Mine was there, circled 3 times in what looked like charcoal. A choked noise escaped my throat as I fumbled for my phone, but the screen stayed black. Dead. The candles guttered, shadows lurching across the walls like something was moving between them. Then I heard it, a slow, deliberate creak from the far corner of the room. A closet door I hadn't noticed before was now open a few inches. Inside, pitch black. My legs locked. Every instinct screamed, "Don't look," but I couldn't turn away. Something pale glinted in the darkness. Fingers, resting on the edge of the door, bone white and too long. The fingers twitched, a grotesque, spider-like movement, and then slid back into the darkness. My entire body went cold. I couldn't scream, couldn't even breathe. The closet door creaked wider, inch by inch, and the smell hit me next. Damp earth and something sweetly rotten, like flowers left to mold in a sealed jar. My back hit the wall, my fingers scrambling against the plaster as if I could dig my way out. The candles flickered violently, and for a split second, I saw it. A face half hidden in the closet's shadows. No eyes, just hollow pits, and a mouth stretched too wide, like it had been slit open with a knife. A wet, clicking sound bubbled up from its throat. It was laughing that I don't remember deciding to move, but suddenly I was throwing myself at the door, shoulders slamming into the wood over and over. "Help, please." My voice cracked raw, but the party noise below swallowed it whole. Behind me, the closet door groaned open fully, and the thing stepped out. Not walked, glided. Its limbs were wrong, joints bending in places they shouldn't, like a mannequin put together wrong. The photos rustled as it passed, like they were alive. I turned just in time to see it lunge, those long fingers closing around my wrist. The touch was freezing, wrong, like grabbing me from a freezer. It yanked me forward, and my vision swam. The last thing I saw before everything went black was its mouth opening wider, impossibly wide, and the smell of rot filling my lungs. I came to on the house's front lawn, gasping like I'd been underwater. My shirt was soaked with sweat, my wrist throbbed where the thing had grabbed me, and my phone, now mysteriously powered on, showed 3:17 a.m. The party was over, the house dark and silent. I scrambled up, expecting to see it in every shadow, but there was nothing. Just empty streetlights and the sound of my own panicked breathing. I ran all the way back to my dorm, checking over my shoulder every few steps. When I finally collapsed onto my bed, I noticed something that made my blood freeze. My Star Wars poster was slightly torn at the corner, exactly where it had been in the photo. For weeks, I barely slept. I taped blankets over my windows and kept a knife under my pillow. I tried to convince myself it was a prank, some messed up hazing thing, but no one at the party remembered seeing me upstairs. Worse, the house had been vacant for months, bank-owned, with no utilities. The party had no host, no invites. Just a crowd that showed up because someone heard about it. I went back once during the day, shaking as I stood on that empty second floor. No candles, no photos. Just dust and a closet with a broken lock. But when I knelt to check the floorboards, I found one thing they'd missed. A single photo, crumpled and shoved in a crack. It was me again, but this time I wasn't sleeping. I was staring wide-eyed at the camera, mouth open in a scream. The date on the back? The night after the party, I burned the photo in my dorm sink, watching the edges curl to black ash, but the dread never left. That's when the other things started happening. Whispers through my air vents at 3 a.m., my doorknob jiggling on its own, and once a handprint smeared on my window after a rainstorm. Too large to be human. I started sleeping in the library, then my car, but it didn't matter. Wherever I went, I'd wake up with fresh bruises in the shape of fingerprints around my ankles. The worst was the clicking. Always at night, always getting closer. That same wet sound from the closet. I began carrying salt and iron nails in my pockets, half laughing at myself, but desperation makes believers out of anyone. The breaking point came when my roommate moved out. Not because of me, because he swore his photos started going missing. Polaroids from his childhood, his girlfriend, even his damn driver's license. All replaced with grainy shots of him sleeping. The night he left, I drank until the room spun, then did something stupid. I called out to it. "Show yourself, you coward." The second the words left my mouth, every light in the dorm blew out. The clicking came from inside the walls, racing toward me like a swarm of beetles. I bolted into the hall, but the exit sign at the far end flickered red, illuminating a figure. Tall, too tall, its head scraping the ceiling. It wasn't gliding anymore. It was running. Almost there. Let me know if you want a final stretch to lean harder into escape or confrontation. Paragraph 11. I don't remember how I got out alive. Maybe let me go. Maybe I blacked out again. All I know is I woke up in the hospital with a dislocated shoulder and no memory of the past 12 hours. The nurses said a security guard found me convulsing in the parking lot, covered in shallow cuts that spelled words in a language no one could read. They discharged me with a shrug, chalking it up to drugs or epilepsy. But I knew the truth when I got back to my dorm. Every mirror was covered in greasy fingerprints, and on my pillow lay a new photo. This time, it wasn't me. It was the thing standing at the foot of my bed, its slit mouth curved into a smile. The back read, "Soon." I dropped out the next day, moved across the country, changed my number, even my name. It's been 2 years, and I still sleep with the lights on. Most nights, nothing happens. But sometimes when I'm drifting off, I'll hear a faint click, click, click outside my window. And I know it's not over. It's just waiting. I keep a camera by my bed now, pointed at myself 24/7. If it takes me, I figure at least there'll be proof. The weirdest part? The photos always come out blank. Except one. Last winter, I found a single blurred shot in the camera roll. Just darkness, and 2 pale hands pressed against the glass from the inside. It was the fall semester of 2019, and I was drowning in midterms, the kind of exhaustion where coffee just makes your hands shake without waking you up. Our advanced systems design group project was due in 48 hours, and of course, we'd left the worst of it for the last minute. That's how 5 of us ended up in an engineering building's computer lab at 11:30 p.m. on a Tuesday. Me, Priya, Mark, Javier, and him. The lab was a graveyard of half-dead PCs. The hum of servers the only sound besides our keyboards clacking. The lights flickered sometimes, old wiring we figured, but that night, the shadows in the corners felt thicker, like they'd pooled there on purpose. I didn't think much of the 5th guy at first. He was tall, lanky, wearing a hoodie with some faded band logo I couldn't place. His name? I swear he said it, but the second the word left his mouth, it slipped out of my memory like smoke. He just fit in, laughed at the right moments, nodded along when Mark ranted about the professor's impossible grading. But when I passed him a USB drive, his fingers were cold. Not just came in from outside cold, more like something dug up from wet earth. I shrugged it off, until Priya leaned over later and whispered, "Who invited him?" Her voice had this tremor I'd never heard before. Around 1 a.m., Javier pulled up the share project file, and that's when things got off. The 5th guy, had he ever actually said his name, leaned in too close to the screen, his breath fogging the monitor. Not warm condensation, though. More like the way glass mists over when you open a freezer. I caught Priya staring at his reflection in the darkened window behind us. Her face went pale. Later, she told me his pupils didn't contract under the fluorescent lights. Just 2 black holes, fixed and unblinking. Mark, ever the skeptic, tried to lighten the mood. "Dude, you planning to sleep tonight?" he joked, nudging the guy's shoulder. The second his fingers made contact, Mark recoiled like he'd been burned. "What the fuck?" he muttered, shaking out his hand. The guy didn't react, just kept typing, keystrokes unnaturally even like a metronome. That's when I noticed it too, his hands. Too many knuckles. Fingers that bent just a fraction too far at the joints. My stomach dropped. I opened my mouth to say something, anything, but the fire alarm screamed to life, drowning us in red light and a sound like a dying animal. The alarm was deafening, but what really made my skin crawl was how calm the 5th guy was. No startled jump, no confused glance, just this slow, deliberate turn of his head toward the door, like he'd been expecting it. The rest of us bolted, chairs screeching, backpacks half-zipped. I remember the hallway lights, strobing, casting jagged shadows as we sprinted for the stairwell. Priya was ahead of me, her ponytail whipping side to side, and I could hear Javier yelling for us to hurry. But when I glanced back, the 5th guy wasn't running. He was walking. Not even fast, just following. And smiling. Not a real smile. The kind of kid draws on a balloon, stretched too wide, no teeth. Outside, campus security herded everyone into the parking lot while fire trucks rolled up, sirens wailing. We were all gasping for breath, counting heads. Priya, Mark, Javier, me. But the fifth guy? Gone. Not in the crowd, not lingering by the building. Just poof. We figured maybe he ducked out another exit, but Javier kept shaking his head. Did you see his face when the alarm went off? He kept saying. Like he knew. That's when Mark pulled up the group chat to message him. Only none of us could remember his username, or his last name, or anything useful. Just that damn hoodie and the way his fingers had looked wrong under the glow of the monitor. Campus security let us back in around 3 a.m. after declaring it a false alarm. The lab was freezing, like the HVAC had gone haywire. That's when Priya suggested checking the cameras. She had a friend in IT who could pull the footage. We crowded around her laptop in the empty hallway, watching the timestamp playback. There we were, Priya first, then me, Mark, Javier. The door swung open again, and nothing. No fifth guy, just the four of us, working like normal. But we remembered him. We all did. Javier rewound it twice, his hands shaking. That's impossible, Mark whispered. Then Priya pointed to the screen, her voice barely audible. Look at you. On camera, my own face was tilted slightly, like I was listening to someone just out of frame. Javier's lips moved in response to empty air. Mark's head jerked toward a chair that, according to the footage, had always been empty. The longer we watched, the worse it got. All of us reacting to nothing, laughing at jokes no one told, passing tools to invisible hands. And in every shot, that empty chair, like a hole punched through reality. My throat went dry, because if the cameras were right, then what, or who, had been sitting with us for hours? And why do we still remember him so clearly? We didn't sleep that night. By dawn, we were back at the lab, triple-checking everything. That's when Javier noticed it, the project file. It was finished, code compiled, diagrams polished, citations formatted. Work that should have taken us another 12 hours, done in what looked like one flawless session. But the last edit timestamp was 2:47 a.m. after we'd evacuated. None of us had been there. None of us could have been. Priya scrolled to the contributor log, and that's when we saw it. A username none of us recognized, just a string of garbled characters tagged on every major edit. Mark tried to delete it. The file corrupted instantly, pixels twisting into a glitched-out mess of static. Then Javier's phone buzzed. A notification from our school portal, group member removed. The name field was blank. We all got the same alert. That's when Priya started crying, not out of fear, but frustration. What if we imagined him, she said. But I knew we hadn't, because later, when I emptied my backpack at home, I found something inside, a single frost-covered USB drive I'd never seen before. And when I plugged it in, all it contained was a folder named in that same garbled text and one video file. I haven't opened it yet. I don't think I ever will. We turned in the project, what was left of it, and got a B-. The professor never mentioned the corrupted sections, never asked about a fifth member. It was like the universe had ironed out the inconsistency, and we were the only ones who noticed the seams. Javier transferred schools a month later. Priya won't even walk past that building anymore. And Mark? He insists it was a prank, some weird hazing thing, even though none of us can explain the footage. Or the USB. Or the way, sometimes, when I'm working late, my laptop's camera light flicks on for no reason. I always slam it shut. It's been 4 years. I've told this story exactly once, to a therapist who suggested sleep deprivation and stress. Maybe she's right. But last week, I got an email from an address I didn't recognize. No subject line, no text, just an attachment, a screenshot of our old group project roster. 5 names listed. The 5th one was highlighted. I deleted it immediately. And yet, here's the thing that keeps me up now. I could have sworn, just before it vanished, that the name was finally legible. And it was mine.